I just want to know from your experience, where do people screw up with briefs? Where do people screw up with optimization and how they monitor, manage, report on it?
Yeah, I think for briefs, the biggest thing we see, um, and there's maybe a point of diminishing returns of being too thorough, but just leaving a lot out. We often see briefs just have a few keywords and maybe one or two notes for the writer. And then all of a sudden that gets sent to the writer and all they're given is maybe three keywords and we're asking them to go produce something. So the first thing is just making sure you're first looking at keywords, then looking at kind of those semantically related topics, then looking at search intent, and then actually even trying to start an outline for a writer. So when they're actually getting the brief, there's just all this information that's really going to set it up. So when a draft is written or when the writer does an outline, it's already on track and we know it's going to have a good potential to rank well. Because really what we're doing is we're just trying to give ourselves the best chance at ranking well and getting the traffic from the SEO standpoint. So often the biggest issue with brief is just not being thorough enough. We have seen the flip side, although that's rare, of just having so much where it's so rigid that leaves no room for anybody else to add their creativity or their own ideas to it. I'd say that's more rare, but we have seen that. Those would be the biggest things we see with briefs.
Yeah, I think the evolution of the brief, we were the first people to bring briefs as a product effectively into software. So I've seen the evolution of the brief. The thing that I've always said, and you described it really well, is the more rigid the brief, the less empowerment you deliver with that brief. The brief acting as a source of truth, as an artifact, is to get you on the same page as the writer. It's not meant to lock the writer in a box and say, hey, press those buttons in that way. So it's getting to that happy medium. The best thing you can do in those situations is ask the writers, right? And a lot of times you find there's a little bit of fear by the writers. Yeah, I don't want to write a section about that. Why? I just don't. But I did it anyway. Okay. Let's get ahead of that. These are guidelines. Let's get at least to a situation where our content is equal to or better. Is there something that's mandatory? You better make sure that's clear that it's mandatory. If there's stuff that isn't as rigid, make sure this is open to your interpretation. Because I would rather have my writer improve the narrative when they optimize, make it a better story, make it more beautiful,